Story 1. There are more tigers being kept as pets than there are living in the wild. Story 2. Someone out there is experiencing their last day on Earth, and they do not even know it yet. Story 3. Children, especially younger ones, who are abused often think it is their fault, that they are somehow bad and deserve to be abused. They feel shame, and it is hard for them to tell anyone about it. Story 4. If they or you move too far away, you will probably see only some of your closest friends a few more times before one of you dies. Story 5. Most people with Down syndrome will later develop dementia. Story 6. Grave of the Fireflies was based on a true story. The author who wrote it outlived his little sister by 80 years. Story 7. Elephants grieve and even have funerals for some of their own. They did this for a human once. Lawrence Anthony was a conservationist known as the Elephant Whisperer because of his connection to the animals, dedicating his life to their protection. He died of a heart attack at 61 years old. Within 2 days of Anthony's death, a group of 21 elephants he had saved and befriended walked to his home. They stood for hours, then began making distress noises as though they knew he had died. For years after, on the anniversary of his death, this same herd repeated the journey to his home. No one communicated to the animals that Anthony had died. They just knew. Because elephants are highly emotional and social animals, they have reportedly even died of broken hearts. Their health can decline so severely after a deep personal loss that it can result in death. This phenomenon occurs in other animals as well, including humans and dogs. Story 8. Octopus mothers wall themselves into a tiny burrow when they lay their eggs and then remain there guarding them until they eventually starve to death. The eggs hatch after she is already dead. They are one of the smartest animals on the planet, yet they face an evolutionary dead end in terms of intelligence because of this, and perhaps for other reasons as well. Story 9. Millions of people go hungry every day while tons of food are wasted. Story 10. We will only live about 4,000 weeks on average, and we spend a large part of it stressing about things that ultimately will not matter. Story 11. The happiest ending to a relationship involves one or both people in it dying. Story 12. Millions of people who could have been saved have died due to health insurance rejecting scans, tests, and claims. Story 13. The largest number of people enslaved is right now. Not in the Dark Ages, not in barbaric times, but today. Story 14. Teenage girls with disabilities receive birth control injections to prevent pregnancy in case they are taken advantage of. Story 15. Probably the one that always hits me the hardest is that dogs do not realize their time is short. They just know you are their whole world. You are the best part of their day every single day, and one day you will have to say goodbye while they are still looking at you with that same love. That one always breaks me. Story 16. There were hundreds of underage children who were abused by powerful individuals, and they are not receiving the justice they rightfully deserve. Release the Epstein files. Story 17. Some people are born literally without anyone to care that they are being born in this world. Then you have the opposite. For those first ones, life is very hard. Story 18. There was once a time when your mother put you down and decided never to pick you up again. Story 19. Some people come into our lives, play with our feelings, walk all over our emotions, and then just disappear as if we meant nothing to them. Story 20. Not all families love each other. I grew up with a loving family, but not everyone has that privilege. Story 21. None of the past 5 mass extinction events came with such a clear warning, along with an equally possible and critical way to stop it from happening. This one even gives the main perpetrators, that is us, a chance in advance to rectify and change the outcome through our collective will. And still, everything is going badly. Story 22. My country, Finland, also deported Jewish people to Germany during World War II and has a disturbing history of eugenics. It was upsetting to learn this information even as an adult. Story 23. Polar bears will become extinct. I am not a pessimist, and I understand that there is still hope for many ecosystems and for humanity, but polar bears are beyond saving. Their habitats are disappearing, and there is no reversing that quickly enough. Story 24. It is speculated that over 250,000 North Koreans are in concentration camps. Some families have been there for generations, and children are currently growing up in these camps. Living outside of those camps is not much better, as the whole country practically functions as a prison itself. Story 25. By the time you are about 11 to 12 years old, you have spent about 50% of the time with your parents that you ever will. This is probably sadder for parents than for children. Story 26. There is enough food, housing, and clothing in the entire world for everyone, and yet people are still starving, homeless, and without clothes. The only thing keeping a significant part of the world below the poverty line is profit incentives and a handful of billionaires who have a hoarding disorder that makes them refuse to help anyone if it does not provide them with some form of passive income. Story 27. I will never see, hug, or speak to my grandmother again because she passed away. I miss her every day. Story 28. The deadliest object in human history is the cigarette, claiming more than 8 million lives each year. More than malaria, tuberculosis, car accidents, wars, and natural disasters combined. It has claimed more lives than the machine gun, the atomic bomb, and every other weapon. Story 29. There was a day when I picked my children up and just held them for the last time, and I did not notice it. Story 30. Whales die by drowning. Eventually, they do not have enough energy to surface for air, and they sink to the bottom and drown. This process is called a whale fall. Story 31. My greatest fear. Inevitability. Time marches on, and there is nothing you can do about it. That is a fact. I do not mind the implication that everyone will die. Your friends at one point in life may move on the next. People you saw every day once will leave. You will get older, your bones will get weaker, and your health will decline. That is fine. But to appreciate the fact that it is an unstoppable force with no care, no regard, no right is important. It is simply the nature of the universe to keep going. Inevitability terrifies me. When I think about it too much, the depth of sadness I feel is immense. Story 32. Cows mourn their calves for days when they are taken away in the dairy industry. Story 33. Archaeologists can identify the ruins of a brothel from the piles of infant skeletons buried out back. Edit. This claim has been found to be exaggerated based on a few questionable cases. Story 34. There are more empty houses in the world than homeless people. Story 35. One day you realize your parents and family have feelings as well, and some things you said to them could have really upset them, probably did, and you didn't care because you were angry. But they didn't show any emotions and still loved you. Now, my grandmother, who was basically like both my mom and dad, is 76, and I'm scared she will suddenly die one day. I try to treat her the best I can for all the bad things I used to say as a teenager. I know this won't make up for all the sadness or make her younger. I'm sorry. Story 36. One sibling will attend all the funerals. One of them will not attend any. Story 37. Just the saddest I recently came across. After Shays' Rebellion, 1786 to 1787 near Springfield, Massachusetts, in the aftermath, 18 people were sentenced to death. All sentences were commuted except John Bly and Charles Rose, who were hanged on December 6, 1787. The letter commuting their sentences was never opened. Story 38. Imagine you are a deer a couple of thousand years ago. You see a group of humans and start running. Initially, you think you have lost them, but soon you realize that is not the case. You turn around. They are still chasing you. You keep running and become fatigued. Surely they are. Tired too? No, they are still running behind you. Soon you collapse on the ground, literally unable to walk. Surely the humans are tired too? No, they are still after you. You wait there for your impending death because you cannot move, but humans somehow keep running. You die and get eaten. Humans are the best of the animals at endurance. We cannot outrun them, but we can outlast them. Story 39. Humanity could take action to prevent the upcoming climate disaster, which is likely to cause billions of deaths, but has chosen not to. Story 40. We are irreparably damaging the planet so badly that billions of people will be displaced by climate change alone in the coming decades, not to mention all those who will die as a result. Story 41. Alcoholism destroys generations of families and causes untold suffering and trauma to society, and we are all powerless over it. Story 42. My sister would be a fantastic, loving mother if it were not for all the difficulties she endured from my violent narcissistic mother, which prevented her from becoming a mother for good. My daughters could have cousins. Now, do not get me wrong. I do not think everyone should have children. I do not believe children are necessary to make a person happy or complete. But I know my sister and remember the way she was before she was broken. Story 43. The world leaders are more concerned with creating hungry people than solving world hunger. Story 44. Whether or not you are a good person and have contributed significantly to other people has no effect on mortality or success. Story 45. The first thing you question after one or both of your parents pass away is, was I a good child to them? This question hurts for a long time. Story 46. All the children you know are going to face a collapsing society. Story 47. The Epstein files have not been released, and the only person to face consequences for selling and raping children has been effectively pardoned. Story 48. It is possible for many people to gang up on you and sabotage your mental health. Anything you try to do may be unsuccessful. Story 49. Despite being a fan favorite introduced in Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver, Mareep is not available to catch in Pokemon Crystal. Story 50. People with autoimmune diseases will need to be cautious about everything for the rest of their lives to stay alive. Love you, Mom. Story 51. Fair warning. This includes graphic details, so please proceed at your own risk. Imperial Japan in World War II had a research facility named Unit 731, also known as Ishii Unit. The staff conducted experiments on Chinese, Soviet, and American prisoners of war. Victims included all ages, including babies. The experiments included, but were not limited to, vivisections, cutting living bodies without anesthesia, pressure chamber tests, psychological torture and manipulation, biological weapon development and testing on humans and animals, frostbite studies with details on duration and nutrition, identity erasure, people were called Maryuta, Japanese for logs, and assigned subject numbers. One of the saddest cases involved a doll infected with disease and given to a little girl by the Japanese army as a birthday gift. She died, but reports showed that despite the infection, the girl remained attached to her doll. None of the people who were experimented on survived. After Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, the unit killed every remaining prisoner to eliminate evidence. The United States then granted these individuals immunity in exchange for data. Some of them even hold regular meetings. Story 52. Beagles make excellent test subjects because they are so forgiving. Story 53. The sheer crushing loneliness and hopelessness that many human beings face around the world is profound. Women are subjected to sexual violence. Children are trafficked. Men die in wars. Women and men suffer alone in poverty, never having the chance for respite, much less the opportunity to study, travel, or be happy. Story 54. My children are neurodiverse, and one day neither my wife nor I will be there for them. Story 55. The search and rescue dogs from September 11th would become sad when they did not find anyone alive. This led to the handlers hiding in rubble and pretending to be survivors to cheer them up. Story 56. Nearly 40,000 Americans die every year in car crashes. We have the data and understanding to reduce this number drastically while saving our planet and decreasing chronic respiratory illness and microplastics, but we do not act. This is mainly because people prefer to buy large trucks and sport utility vehicles, and regulations support these choices. Simply making all modes of transportation lighter and slower would reduce environmental damage, make cities quieter, and save countless lives. Story 57. For most pets, we are their whole life, but for us, they are just a small part of ours. Story 58. Cows can befriend other cows and cry just like humans when their friends are killed in front of their eyes. They also cry when their babies are taken away right after birth. Story 59. Not everyone you love and who loves you is meant to be in your life. Some people are just stops on your journey. Story 60. Whales evolved from land mammals to live in the ocean, then returned to the ocean environment. They have leftover bones that no longer serve a purpose, similar to an appendix. These are vestigial remnants from their evolutionary past. Additionally, the blowhole of a blue whale resembles Michael Jackson's nose or the absence of it, which is quite unusual. Story 61. One time you went out to play with your friends for the last time. Story 62. There was a time when you went outside to play with your friends, and none of you knew it was the last time. Story 63. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted in their lifetime. Statistically, a third of the women you know are victims. Less than 40% of victims ever report it. Story 64. One day you will wake up and never go to bed again, or you will go to sleep and never wake up again. Story 65. We have the resources we need to stop climate change, but we simply lack the political will to solve it. Story 66. The smartest or most talented people in the world might actually be toiling away, working in a field or a sweatshop, and may never have the ability to use or even know about their talents. Story 67. Suicide is complex. Sometimes people know they are loved, they know they will be missed, and they know there is happiness in their life and in their future, yet they still choose to die. It is a problem I still cannot solve or influence, no matter how hard I try. Story 68. The number 1 cause of death of pregnant women in the United States is homicide. Story 69. According to a person who helped sexual assault victims, the common clothing item they wore when the abuse occurred was their pajamas. Take your time to process this horrible information. Story 70. The number 1 cause of death of children and teenagers in the United States is firearms. Story 71. A few years after you die, almost nobody will remember or think about you anymore. Story 72. One day you will put your child down and never hold them again. Story 73. Sooner or later, the time comes when your parents no longer pick you up for a hug. Story 74. Elephants will mourn other elephants in their group and hold funerals for them. They can even recognize the bones of the deceased elephant. Story 75. Approximately 96% of mammals by weight on Earth are farm animals. The remaining 4% are wild animals. Story 76. A large number of people will die because of climate change so that a small group of billionaires can become richer. Story 77. It is someone's last day on Earth, and they do not even know it yet. Story 78. Children are dying. Lull nodded. That is a succinct summary of humankind, I would say. Who needs tomes and volumes of history? Children are dying. The injustices of the world hide in those 3 words. Quote me, Diker, and your work is done. Story 79. Half of all people will develop cancer at some point in their life. Story 80. The person I thought I would spend my life with and I are in the process of breaking up, and I will probably never see them or hear their voice again. Story 81. And doesn't it make you sad to know that life is more than who we are? Goo Goo Dolls. Story 82. You will be forgotten in a few years after your death. The children of your grandchildren will likely never know you. Their children will not even know your name. Story 83. People usually end relationships for the same reasons they enter them. Spontaneous becomes lack of planning. Goal-oriented becomes controlling. Story 84. I just lost a third person I knew from high school to suicide. I am only 25 years old. 3 suicides are too many. Story 85. Everything everywhere will eventually become nothing more than heat. Story 86. On a daily basis, you will have to deal with things that are not your fault, but are unfortunately your problem. Story 87. Every day, people perform certain movements. Maybe a small jump, a run for a bus, or bending down to tie a shoelace. It is harder than it used to be. Then, without really thinking about it, they simply never do it again. Use it or lose it is as good as a law of biology. Stay active. Story 88. I will always suffer from depression in intermittent bouts in my life. 60-year-old female. Story 89. The number of people in the world who are older than you never increases. Story 90. I just finished my work week. I am going to blink, and it will be Monday morning. Story 91. Saying abortion is homicide will get you banned on most of this website or invite unreasonable backlash from people who want to dehumanize the unborn. Story 92. Humans can abuse, kill, maim, and rape any living thing. Wars exist where people kill one another. We cannot simply get along and make this world a beautiful place where there is enough for everyone and no need for violence. Story 93. One of the top Democratic candidates for president is also one of the top donors to the Republican Party. Story 94. El Salvador is still excavating mass graves to this day because the United States of America and Russia did not have the courage to confront each other directly. Story 95. Many countries that claim to be democracies are actually flawed. Sadly, the United States is one of them due to a combination of fundamentalism and anti-intellectualism trying to gain control of the country. There is a video online explaining how fascism uses a set of tactics to succeed. Story 96. Guns are the leading cause of death among American children, and partner homicide is the leading cause of death for pregnant and postpartum women. Story 97. Skimming of supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits is rampant. Telling a mother who relies on them that she needs to wait until next month to buy groceries is difficult. Here is a list of food pantries. Story 98. They would rather harm the planet to gain more money than actually help the environment. Story 99. The fact that people still believe Donald Trump's hair is real is unfortunate, but I suppose it reflects his policies. Both are artificial and full of empty promises. Story 100. 2 sad facts. 1. Satellites measuring the Earth's reflectivity have recorded a loss in reflectivity every year for the last 8 years. This means the Earth is absorbing more energy each year and is heating faster and faster. Efforts to mitigate global warming have been halted by the most powerful man on Earth, Donald Trump. 2. Donald Trump is the most powerful man on Earth and more intelligent than any of his followers. Story 101. A group of people exploited a female orangutan for years before it was rescued. The rescue had to be conducted through an armed assault because the perpetrators resisted with weapons. People attempted to harm others to maintain their illegal interspecies abuse operation. This may not be the saddest fact I know, but it is among the most disturbing. Story 102. People change and there is nothing you can do about it. No amount of love or care can fix it. Story 103. Santa Claus is not real. It was very shocking for me when I found out. Story 104. A couple of people I considered close friends do not and will not find time for me. There is nothing I can change, and trying to change it would only make things worse. I am taking my time to accept it. Story 105. I am the 4th child, and I heard my parents say, life would have been easier if Name had not been born. I think about this every day of my life. Story 106. Loving someone and giving your all, never knowing if they love you back the same way. Story 107. One of the most painful stings in the world comes from a platypus. Story 108. One day, when you are little and being carried about, your mother puts you down and never picks you back up again. Story 109. Some animals are going to go extinct in our lifetime. We are trying to save some, but we cannot save them all. Story 110. Many Americans believe that Europe has forgotten their sacrifice for Europe. We remember. One example is the Sunset March in Nijmegen, where a Dutch veteran escorts 42 pairs of lights being turned on, representing the 42 paratroopers who died crossing the river. Story 111. Sometimes people simply fall out of love with each other for no particular reason. Story 112. I am probably not going to quit drinking wine and start exercising tomorrow. I will then look in the mirror wondering how I got so chubby. Story 113. As an average-looking guy, whenever I see a girl who is more attractive than me, I instantly feel sad. Story 114. Robot lawnmowers kill many hedgehogs because the natural instinct of a hedgehog is to curl up rather than run away. Therefore, they just curl up and get run over. Story 115. Humans kill 100 million sharks a year. Story 116. The majority of our waking lives are spent trying to earn or save money. Story 117. Many elderly people spend their last years completely alone, with no family or visitors. Story 118. A child spends more time with their parents in the first 2 years of life than they will in the entire 20 years from age 20 to 40. Story 119. If a couple ends their relationship but remains friends afterward, it means they never truly loved each other. Story 120. One of the family members has to attend the funeral of the others. Sad but true. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.